Hello, welcome to the Planet Unposted podcast. This is Naomi Tucker, and I am excited to have you here for episode 4 of the podcast. Today, we'll be getting into seed to table as an emerging trend within events, and I'm going to be sitting down with a friend of mine, Kari Witthuhn-Henning, who's the founder of the Appleton Seed Library, and she's a Allegheny County Master Gardener. I really am excited to have this conversation with her and have her here so that we can learn a little bit from her. So, with that said, before I get started and give you a little bit more about her, I wanted to be able to give you a few reminders. First thing, if you haven't liked or subscribed to the podcast, I would love you to be able to do that. That is just how we know how we're doing, and I would just love you to give us a thumbs up so that in the algorithms of the internet, we could be recommended to other event planners like yourself. Secondly, if you have Facebook or Twitter, would love it for you to join us on those platforms too. So definitely follow us. I believe we're at Planet Unposted on those platforms. Would love to be able to see you represented there as well. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit about Kari. I gave you a sneak peek earlier, so wanted to get into a little bit of her bio. So like I mentioned, Kari is the founder of the Appleton Seed Library, and she also is a master gardener here in Allegheny County. She is an avid seed saver, and she's a budding herbalist. She believes that some of the most profound teachings and healing come from working on land and plants. She blends yard sustainability, intentional living, and community collaboration. All of those fuel her creative endeavors. So to that end, Kari offers classes and educational nature walks to help people explore and deepen their connection to what grows right here in our beautiful Fox cities. And it doesn't stop there. Kari is definitely key on giving influence to all of those gardeners that might need it and that might seek it. And I just really admire Kari so much. She's been just so precious to me in terms of just me and my health. Usually if I'm going through some things, I'm calling Kari and saying, Kari, what can I do for this? What natural remedy can you provide me for this? And she always can help me with anything that I need. So I'm very thankful for her sitting down. While we did this interview, we're just doing what friends do, having our kids play together and just enjoying some time together. So we might have some little giggles and probably you might hear some little pitty pat feet in the background, but it was all in fun. And so again, looking forward for you to hear this interview, and we'll jump right into it. And after we're all said and done, I will come back with my top 5 takeaways from my conversation with Kari. Enjoy. So Kari, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so excited to have you here. Why don't you say hello to everyone?
Hello, Planner World. I'm happy to be here, Naomi. Thanks for having me muse with you this afternoon.
Not a problem. So, as everyone who is listening, I have Kari here. She came over to bring her kids to my home, and we just had a little bit of a time to relax and enjoy each other's company, which we just definitely hope that everyone gets that opportunity to do, just kind of refresh and live in community with their friends. So it's been a great afternoon so far. So we figured we'd just do a little podcast. So
and stuff we'd love to talk about. So this should be real fun, real easy.
Absolutely. So Kari, why don't you just I know so much about you, and we've been talking here for a few hours. Why don't you just give a little bit of a background to some of our listeners on just yourself and your personal journey?
Sure. So my current journey has found me after I stepped away from the professional photography working world to raise babies. I kind of rediscovered an inherent interest in the natural world, in growing things and cultivating things. both edible and within community. So I began taking classes. I became a volunteer master gardener in my community, which really sparked new ideas. So I started a seed sharing library called the Appleton Seed Library, which is a community hotspot. Whenever the library is open, our community is welcome to come and peruse the drawers.
And so, what is that like exactly? It's like drawers of seeds in the drawers.
Right. So the old card catalog houses heirloom seeds.
Oh, nice.
And we do ask that heirloom seeds are donated versus hybrid seeds, for the fact that heirloom seeds can be saved from generation to generation, and that's a lost art that became really interesting to me, and has kind of threaded this new journey of what we're going to get into a little bit today.
So tell us a little bit about heirloom seeds for those of us that do not know what those are.
Sure. To keep it real simple, heirloom seeds are seeds that are openly pollinated by, our lovely pollinators. So the seed stays true to type versus a hybrid. So when we're consuming hybrid vegetables, there has been a plant breeder involved, taking strains from, say, a mother plant and breeding it in with a second plant, a father plant, to create a new hybrid plant. So when you save a hybrid seed, which you can do, I don't recommend it, it will try to revert back to one of its parents. So you'll still get some sort of a fruit or vegetable in your garden if you save hybrid seeds, but so that's a big difference. Heirlooms stay true to type because they are a stabilized seed, so they've been saved and saved and saved, for 50 plus generations, oftentimes hundreds of generations, versus a hybrid. So a current plant breeder is making hybrids.
Awesome. So, and I think that kind of goes in line with what we're talking about today. So everyone, I asked Kari to come on because I thought she had a tremendous amount of just valuable knowledge when it comes to not only saving seeds, but growing seeds. And just her knowledge for just herbals would really help with us in the event planning community. So there are a couple of concepts that are floating around as event planning trends. The first one is farm to table. And I believe everybody pretty much knows what farm to table is. The concept is essentially, making a meal from the farm, bringing it to the table, something natural, right? And it's a really interesting concept that has come to light with some events, but there's a new budding interest that has occurred, which is seed to table, which is what I wanted Kari to talk a little bit about what seed to table is versus what farm to table is. So for our listeners, Kari, just tell us a little bit of what seed to table is versus farm to table as we kind of move along here.
I will not say that I am the definitive end-all authoritative person in this topic, but I do know a lot about it because I'm passionate about it. The farm to table concept is this beautiful collaboration between local growers and event planners or local chefs, or a partnership amongst the three of you, where you're going directly to the people growing the food to create these beautiful, memorable events, which I think is a growing trend too, as event planners. To be memorable is to be rebooked, I would think.
Yeah? Absolutely. Yeah. Just to do something that's memorable, getting everyone talking about it at your event, posting pictures of, what that would be, and continuing the conversation. So they're waiting for that next event.
Another beautiful thing that comes from these collaboration is this cross-pollination, if you will, between them. There's a kickback to that farm. That farm is getting greater exposure. The attendees are being, awoken to this new concept, and they're going to share. And then it's reciprocal. So there's much more community, I think, that's built when you collaborate, farm to table side. And Naomi also mentioned the term seed to table, which is taking it one step further, where you're really stretching and planning with someone maybe 6, 9, maybe even a year out in advance of what you want that final plated event to look like. Working directly with then the farmer, you can help pick out varieties or key in on perhaps in an indigenous or a cultural theme or a color theme.
Mm-hmm.
You can get really creative with once you grow that partnership, it's kind of sky's the limit with.
Right. And I think there are lots of there's lots of hotels now that I think that have really great relationships either with, farms in their area, or they're even, growing, gardens at, in their hotel as well. Rooftop gardens
little
or
mini urban gardens.
Exactly. So you might find that, working with chefs in the hotels, that's something that you can also try to help kind of cultivate something unique too. In the planning window, you spoke to that. I think that's important because you would have to really think about kind of the growing season, right, of a lot of these things that we're looking to grow. So when they're planted and when they can be harvested, and making sure we're accounting for that when it comes to the event time frame and when the event is going to launch too. So for those of you that want to try out Seed to Table, definitely, if you're looking for a winter event, you might really want to think of what type of, seeds or, plants that you're working with, so that you can kind of present the best at that event. Or you might want to change your date to a time frame where it's going to be more fruitful for your event.
Sure, yeah. Starting that dialogue and getting feedback and not being rigid with planning, I think, is something that may be really freeing and liberating too. It may seem kind of scary and daunting to journey into it, but I think in the end you'll come out more confident and more fuller from an experience where you've made a lot of neat local connections on many fronts. I mean, there's microbrews, there's rooftop apiaries. Like, it doesn't have to just be from like the field. It can be like, local beekeepers or there's all sorts of craft people within whatever community that you're planning in it's a beautiful relationship that can be cultivated and built upon.
Great. So as we're talking, Kari, I hear our kids in the background. So listeners, if you do hear the joyful screams of some of our children of summer, I think my husband James is holding him down so that we can do this interview. So we have to give him a great big hug after this. So Kari was mentioning some of the examples of what chefs have done, or what some celebrity chefs have done in order to support their events. And there was one in particular about snow peas that I found interesting that I was hoping she would share with us to give you somewhat of an idea on what we're talking about, Seed to Table, and kind of growing for your next event.
Sure. So there's this beautiful collaboration between a chef and a seedsman that has come full circle, and they've actually launched a seed company within the last year or so. It's called Row 7 is the seed company, and the seeds are a step forward from a collaboration that the chef and the seedsman, the grower, had of the chef wanting a specific, for example, like Naomi said, the snow peas. The chef is Dan Barber, and I think the story goes that he loved purple peas, coming in from the field, just the beauty of them, the variations that they had and the hues. But when he cooked them or sauteed them, they were reverting back to green, like we normally know peas. Well, he worked with a seedsman to breed a hybrid variety of snow peas that retain the purple color after cooking. So he had this vision for a dish that he wanted to do and a roadblock, but then by working collaboratively with nature and somebody in that expertise was able to create something that he was seeing in his head. And similarly, a flavor profile too. Another example of another crop that they've worked on together that you can order from Row 7 is it's a miniature version of a butternut squash. And this butternut squash, the flavor profiles of it are supposed to be exponentially like one butternut squash
in
would
one
be,
small butternut
but it's in
squash.
a smaller one.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was bred more efficiently and smartly to cater to a culinary kitchen.
And people like little cute things too.
And people love little cute things, yeah. And some of the top-end restaurants, like you'll see squash blossoms coming out with like these mini squashes on your plate now too. So the forward movement of food is becoming back to like revering your food. Like don't cut off all the ends. Don't throw your food scraps away. Like there's use in that. So that's a beautiful part of the journey too.
And talk a little bit just about the kind of the maybe the historical aspect of some of our fruits and vegetables. What we're kind of growing now are kind of more of the modern fruits and vegetables. And when we just look even 20 years ago, things have changed. So there might be opportunity for us to bring different types of fruits and vegetables into our meetings and events and bring awareness to what was kind of either lost or something like that. So speak to that a little bit.
Sure. Some of those forgotten flavors, it's definitely happening with mergers of large seeds companies and pharmaceutical and even pesticide companies. Like the future of seeds is really critical right now. I was sharing with Naomi that seed diversity since the 1900s has dropped 90% of seed diversity, which was a staggering statistic to me that I had to like look up and relook and resource.
Like, is that true?
Could this be true? And it is. Like the diversity of seeds that we can grow as gardeners is changing. So the reverence for learning this lost art of seed saving comes full circle with these farm-to-table events that are truly working with farmers who are passionate about growing heirloom seed versus hybrid.
So, Kari, I think that your expertise can be leveraged. Thank you so much for just sharing everything when it comes to just seed to table and just making us aware of some of the options that we have as event planners and kind of making sure that our events have that awareness and seeing what we can do with seed to table and putting some creativity out there and bringing some creativity to your plate. However, I think that there is another area that you can definitely help our listeners, and that's when it comes to stress relief. Our industry is always on the top 10 list for the number one most stressed out community of event planners and hardworking. So we're under a lot of pressure. We are definitely stressed, and it shows because when we do look at those lists, we are in the top 10 up there with police officers, firefighters. They're saving lives one way, and I think we're saving lives another way. So how can we help ourselves when it comes to using nature? How can we help ourselves give us stress relief, and just make us more healthy beings?
Very important. Definitely a big advocate of relearning also that lost art of self-care and community care, which this kind of bridges the gap. I think sometimes events can run away with them, get over the top really quickly, or trying to reach a new bar, reinvent the wheel. But what if you stripped it all right back down to what is always solid, what is always true, what is always beautiful, what always evokes memorable experiences, and that is the backdrop of nature. I mean, people, there's wonder around every corner with nature, and that ties into food, that ties into the decor. I mean, you put a whimsical tabletop open of succulents, and people are, always fiddling with them and touching them, or if there was, there's moss or nature elements or driftwood, like people want to touch and explore that because I think it's a lost connection right now. So even as planners, like wherever you are in the world or your journey, just finding that time by yourself, not with a coworker, just to escape and to breathe in the air and, listen to the birds of where you're event planning too, and just reset and realize this is where I'm at. This is where I am right now, and this is what I can do with this event, or where I want this event to be. I think could be really healing. Just being aware of what your triggers are, how to identify those, how to walk yourself back down, and truly breathing. I teach my kids that too. Like when they get worked up, like you just need to sit right now, and we just got to breathe 5 breaths.
Exactly.
5 breaths does a lot. Even better when you're outside in nature too, where you can close your eyes or put your bare feet on the earth and just reset that energy.
And sometimes we even need to do that and reset our energy when we're kind of on site. I think we've all been there where, there's so much pressure mounting on site. You have this huge event, you want it to go really well, and things aren't going so well, and you're just at the point of breakdown. So just learning how to breathe. Take a step away, get out into nature, breathe in, breathe out, do that 5 times, just to kind of help reset yourself. Is really important.
And it resets your clarity too, right? When you're so frazzled you can't even think, and you need to think, it's like, whoo, it comes real quick.
It does. And I love that idea of just inviting nature into your programs too. Have walking breaks, have breaks where people can take the walking trail, or like you said, adding succulents as a backdrop and having nature within your event can help your attendees have that, kind of lift up and that touch to nature, but then also you, because that's your workspace for the week, right?
So, yes.
So that could help as well. So, well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and doing this.
It was lovely. It was a pleasure.
So tell everyone where they can find you.
Sure. If you want to follow some of my journey and some of the creative experiences and things that I'm concocting, right now you can find me on Facebook, The Seed Guild. So SEEDGUILD, The Seed Guild, is my hotspot.
Wow, what a great interview with Kari. Kari, thank you so much for coming on Planet on a Post-it podcast and really just talking to us about everything that you did from seed to table, farm to table, how we can actually deal with stress. Very, very thankful to have you here. Sorry that the last little bit of that interview was a little clipped off. I think it ended before we wanted it to end, but Kari was mentioning where you can find her, and that is at the Seed Library of Appleton. So I will make sure to put that link in the show notes so that you are able to see it and be able to follow her. If you are in the area, going to one of Kari's nature hikes and or classes that she offers is just very super informative. It is something you should definitely take up and do. So very excited. I wanted to give you my top 5 takeaways about this podcast before we wrap it up. These are just takeaways that I personally had with our conversation and that I would love to be able to incorporate into event planning as I move forward. So the first one are just the lost art around heirloom seeds, how important heirloom seeds are, how they are seeds that have been stabilized for over 50 generations and that they stay true to type. Incorporating heirloom seeds within your event can be very, very beneficial, not only to the seeds themselves because it keeps things going, but just for your event, having something unique to talk about and you can feel good about what you're providing for everyone at your event. The second takeaway that I had is just the collaboration amongst the parties. I think that collaboration with the planners and the farmers and the seedsmen are very important, and there is a unique, rich community that is fostered with that collaboration, and that's built when you're doing something like seed to table and farm to table. So I really appreciated Kari for bringing that up, and I appreciate her for also talking about the aviaries or the craft markets or the like the beekeepers, really trying to incorporate some of those elements as well, and reaching out locally to see if you can collaborate with them as well. The third one is reducing the cost by leveraging the imperfections. You know, sometimes there is the stigma around things have to look absolutely perfect, but sometimes there can be value in the imperfections. And many times when we're working with many of these natural seeds and natural products that are grown really naturally, you might get imperfections, and sometimes you can reduce the cost by leveraging those imperfections. So I really like that idea, and really think that's something that can be promoted as well within your event. Just leveraging the imperfections where you can, especially around fruits and vegetables and things like that. Number 4 is just the movement of food, and how that the movement of food is coming back to revering your food, which I enjoyed Kari saying, enjoying all of your food. It is an up and coming trend. So focusing on how people enjoy their food, focusing on how they visually appreciate it, but then also how they eat it or taste it, what it tastes like. There is a revering with that's coming up, and that's up and coming trend. So when you're focusing on picking menus, you want to make sure you're not only having something that's pleasing to the eye, but pleasing to the palate as well, and is overall one big experience. And then number 5, just the idea about stress relief. Our industry is just challenged with being very stressed, with having to incorporate different elements in order to make themselves whole, make themselves feel like they're grounded. So the idea of just stepping out and counting to 5 to reset your energy. I think Kari said, put your feet on the earth, just go outside, put your feet in the grass, and just breathe in, breathe out. Count to 5. Help reset yourself. It's very, very important. And if you could take the time out for 5 seconds, I think everyone can afford 5 seconds to go outside to do the counting to 5 exercise. You will be in so much of a centered and grounded place, and you can go back in and tackle whatever you need to tackle. Again, I also like her talking about putting those natural elements into your meeting as well. So whether it's a centerpiece, whether it's a kind of a stress relief area, incorporating some naturalness into your workspace, into your meeting, can really help not only your attendees, but help you as well. So those are my top 5 takeaways. I would love to hear what your top 5 are, and what you think about this episode. Was it beneficial? Did you learn something? Please leave comments, let me know. And I just also want to mention, if you like this episode, please make sure to like it, rate it, share it, and subscribe. Would love for you to do those. And once again, thank you so much to Kari Witthuhn-Henning, who was on the podcast today. I really appreciate your insight, really appreciate the value that you brought to the conversation, and I just really hope that you continue to move forward and do great in all the things that you do. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time.